Einstein spent hours staring at the ceiling. Tesla slept only 2 hours a night. Da Vinci wrote backwards. These aren't quirks, they are weapons. The greatest minds in human history didn't succeed because they were smarter than you. They succeeded because they did things differently. Things that seemed strange. Things that seemed wasteful. Things that everyone around them criticized. Strange habits create genius. And here's what's disturbing. Most of these habits have been forgotten, buried, ignored by a society that values conformity over creativity. But today, we're going to dig them up. 10 secret habits from history's greatest minds. Habits that transformed ordinary people into legends. As Seneca once observed, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. These geniuses didn't waste their time. They optimized it in ways that will make you question everything you think you know about success. Productive solitude. Isaac Newton spent 18 months in complete isolation during the plague of 1665. No colleagues, no distractions, no social obligations. In those 18 months, he developed calculus, discovered the laws of motion, and began his work on gravity. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. But here's what Newton never mentioned. Those giants, he found them in silence. Think about your own life for a moment. When was the last time you spent even 1 hour in complete solitude? No phone, no music, no podcasts, just you and your thoughts. The greatest minds understood something we've forgotten. Solitude breeds brilliance. Your brain needs empty space to make connections. It needs boredom to spark creativity. Modern life fills every gap with noise. Newton had plague-enforced silence. You have notifications. Charles Darwin took daily walks lasting hours. Einstein sailed alone on a lake. Nikola Tesla wandered the streets of New York at midnight. They weren't avoiding work. They were doing their most important work. The habit is simple but terrifying for most people. Schedule solitude. Protect it fiercely. Your best ideas are waiting in the silence, but silence alone isn't enough. Walking genius. Aristotle didn't lecture sitting down. He walked. His students followed him through the gardens of Athens, learning philosophy with every step. They became known as the Peripatetics, the walking philosophers. This wasn't a teaching style. It was a thinking technology. Nietzsche wrote, "All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking." He wasn't exaggerating. He composed his greatest works during 8-hour mountain walks. Darwin had a gravel path built specifically for pacing while thinking. He called it his thinking path and walked it multiple times daily. Beethoven took long walks through Vienna streets, sketching musical ideas as he moved. Steve Jobs famously held walking meetings. Mark Zuckerberg copied him. Stanford researchers proved that walking increases creative output by 60%. Why does this work? When you walk, your brain enters a state of loose attention. It's focused enough to work but relaxed enough to wander. This is where unexpected connections happen. The habit isn't just walking. It's walking with intention. Carry a notebook. Don't listen to anything. Let your mind drift while your feet move. Your breakthrough is waiting somewhere along that path. Speaking of paths, the next habit will change how you think about sleep. Sleep architects. Thomas Edison slept only 4 hours a night. He called sleep a criminal waste of time. But here's what the productivity gurus don't tell you. Edison took multiple naps throughout the day. He had cots installed in his laboratory. He would doze off holding metal balls in his hands, positioned over metal plates. When he fell into deep sleep, the balls would drop, the clang would wake him, and he'd capture whatever idea had surfaced from his subconscious. Genius. Salvador Dali used the exact same technique with a key and a plate. Einstein slept 10 hours a night plus daytime naps. He credited his dreams with helping him visualize relativity. He once dreamed of sledding down a mountainside faster and faster until the stars began to change appearance. Imagination is more important than knowledge. The habit isn't about sleeping less or sleeping more. It's about sleeping strategically. Dreams fuel discovery. Many geniuses kept dream journals. They understood that the unconscious mind works on problems while we sleep. The question isn't how many hours you sleep. It's whether you're capturing what your sleeping mind creates. But capturing ideas requires something else entirely. Obsessive notes. Leonardo da Vinci left behind over 7,000 pages of notes. He wrote backwards, in mirror script, filling notebook after notebook with everything from grocery lists to designs for flying machines. He never published them. They weren't for anyone else. I have been impressed with the urgency of doing. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. But first, Leonardo wrote. Charles Darwin filled notebook after notebook during his voyage on the Beagle. Marie Curie's research notebooks are still so radioactive they are kept in lead-lined boxes. Thomas Edison left 3 million pages of notes. 3 million. This wasn't organization. This was obsession. The habit is simple but demanding. Write everything down, not on your phone, on paper. Paper captures thought. There's a neurological reason for this. The act of writing by hand activates different brain regions than typing. It forces you to slow down, to process, to understand. Your phone is designed to capture and forget. Paper is designed to capture and remember. The greatest minds understood that ideas are fragile. They appear and vanish in seconds. The only defense is immediate capture. Every thought, every observation, every question. Write it down before it disappears. And what you write matters more than you think. Question everything. Socrates never wrote a single book. He just asked questions, annoying questions, uncomfortable questions, questions that made powerful people look foolish. They eventually killed him for it, but those questions changed the world. I know that I know nothing. This wasn't false modesty. It was methodology. Einstein was asked what made him different from other physicists. His answer: he was willing to stay confused longer. He kept asking questions that others had stopped asking. Questions like, what would it feel like to ride on a beam of light? Children ask about 400 questions a day. Adults ask about 20. Somewhere along the way we stop being curious. We start being certain, and certainty is the death of genius. The habit requires humility. Question your assumptions. Write down 5 things you believe to be absolutely true. Now ask, what if I'm wrong? What if the opposite is true? What am I not seeing? Richard Feynman called this active ignorance. The practice of deliberately seeking what you don't know. It's uncomfortable, it's destabilizing, it's essential. But questions need fuel, and that fuel comes from an unexpected source. Cross-pollination. Leonardo da Vinci studied anatomy to paint better. He studied water flow to understand blood circulation. He studied birds to design flying machines. He studied architecture to understand proportion. Everything connected. This wasn't distraction. It was strategy. Darwin's breakthrough came from connecting geology, economics, and biology. Einstein played violin seriously and claimed music helped him think through physics problems. Benjamin Franklin invented bifocals, the lightning rod, and the flexible urinary catheter. He also founded America's first lending library and fire department. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. The greatest minds were not specialists. They were cross-pollinators. They drew ideas from one field and planted them in another. Connections create innovation. The habit is counter to modern advice. We're told to specialize, to focus, to go deep in one area, but the data shows something different. Nobel Prize winners are significantly more likely than other scientists to have artistic hobbies. The most innovative companies hire people with diverse backgrounds. Your next breakthrough won't come from going deeper into what you already know. It will come from wandering into what you don't, and that wandering requires a specific relationship with failure. Failing forward. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times trying to create the light bulb. When asked about it, he said he hadn't failed. He'd found 1,000 ways that didn't work. This wasn't spin. It was philosophy. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Stephen King's first novel was rejected 30 times. Einstein's PhD dissertation was rejected as irrelevant and fanciful. Every genius has a graveyard of failures. The difference, they kept failing. They treated failure not as an ending but as data, as feedback, as the price of progress. The habit is psychological more than practical. You must redefine failure, not as something to avoid but as something to accumulate. Each failure eliminates a wrong path. Each rejection refines your approach. Each mistake teaches what success cannot. Fail faster, learn quicker. The person who fails the most learns the most, provided they pay attention, provided they adjust, provided they keep going. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the path to it. And staying on that path requires something most people lack: ruthless focus. Isaac Newton forgot to eat when he was working. His servants would find untouched meals outside his door. Nikola Tesla worked in his laboratory for 84 hours straight, then collapsed. Marie Curie worked with radioactive materials until her fingers bled, until her body became radioactive itself. Obsession. This level of focus seems insane. It probably was, but it reveals something important. These minds didn't have more hours in the day. They had fewer distractions in their hours. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. The habit isn't about working more. It's about protecting your attention ruthlessly. Guard your attention. Every notification is a theft. Every interruption costs you 23 minutes to regain deep focus. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day. That's 96 attention thefts, 96 restarts. The greatest minds had no smartphones, but they also had no hesitation about ignoring social obligations, missing meals, and disappointing people. They understood that attention is finite, that deep work requires deep protection. What would you create if you protected your focus like your life depended on it? Because in a way it does. But focus on what exactly? That's where the next habit comes in. Morning rituals. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, woke before dawn every morning, not to command armies, not to govern an empire, to write in his journal. His meditations were private conversations with himself about virtue, death, and how to be a better person. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive. He never intended for anyone to read them. Benjamin Franklin started every day with the question, "What good shall I do today?" He ended every day with, "What good have I done today?" Beethoven counted exactly 60 coffee beans each morning for his cup. Mornings shape destinies. The habit isn't about the specific ritual. It's about the consistency, about starting each day with intention rather than reaction. Most people wake up and immediately check their phones. They start their day responding to other people's priorities. The greatest minds started their day with their own priorities, their own questions, their own intentions. Your morning sets the tone for everything that follows. How you start determines how you continue. The question is simple. What do you do in the first hour of your day? And there's one final habit that ties everything together: death awareness. The Stoic philosophers kept skulls on their desks. Memento mori. Remember that you will die. This wasn't morbid. It was motivational. Steve Jobs said that remembering he would be dead soon was the most important tool he ever encountered for making big choices. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. Einstein spent his final years working on unified field theory, knowing he wouldn't finish it. He worked anyway, because the work mattered, not the completion. Every genius understood something we avoid. Time is running out. Not eventually, right now. Every day you don't pursue your most important work is a day you'll never get back. The habit is uncomfortable. It requires sitting with mortality, feeling its weight, but that weight creates urgency. Death creates meaning. When you truly accept that your time is limited, trivial concerns fall away. Petty conflicts dissolve. What remains is what matters. The Stoics didn't think about death to be depressed. They thought about it to be alive. Fully alive, while there was still time. 10 habits, 10 weapons that history's greatest minds used to change the world. Productive solitude, walking meditation, strategic sleep, obsessive note-taking, relentless questioning, cross-pollination of ideas, failing forward, ruthless focus, morning rituals, and death awareness. Habits shape destiny. None of these require genius to implement. They require courage. the courage to be different, the courage to protect your time, the courage to fail publicly, the courage to face your mortality. The unexamined life is not worth living. The greatest minds weren't born different. They made themselves different through daily practices that most people were too distracted, too comfortable, or too afraid to adopt. You have the same 24 hours they had, the same brain architecture, the same capacity for deep work and deep thought. The only question is whether you'll use it. The truth is never comfortable, but it's always worth knowing. History has more to teach us. Subscribe if you want to learn.